I can't believe that I'm finally going to be making this video.
This is your uterus, right? The walls of your uterus. We're going to be placing the catheter right in this gray area.
About our IVF journey. It started in 2021. The trying to conceive portion of it started before that, many years before that, but the actual IVF journey started in 2021, and I've been wanting ever since we started to document and share this, because before we started our journey, I was searching high and low for any and all advice, experiences, and just somebody I could relate to about the struggles that we were going through with trying to conceive. Along the way, I found people who shared their journey, and it gave me hope. It gave me courage for me and my husband to give IVF a shot, and we decided to do that. We did IVF, and our journey ended in 2022 when we gave birth to two beautiful identical baby girls. So let's talk about what the process looked like, what you can expect, and kind of what it was like for us and what we went through. And I got all the notes from everything we did. Yay, good on me for tracking this. So I'm probably gonna make a separate video maybe about our trying to conceive journey and what that looked like, what that entailed. But for right now, I'm just gonna start with, we weren't able to get pregnant and stay pregnant. So we thought, okay, let's consider IVF. And the first part of what that looked like was an initial consult with the fertility doctor at the fertility clinic. We spent a little bit of time researching which fertility clinic we thought would be the best match for us. Some of the things that we considered when we were looking for the right IVF clinic for us was distance, how far away it would be. We live outside of the Seattle area, and all of the IVF clinics are pretty much just Seattle and farther away. So that was a big thing that we considered, was how far away the IVF clinic would be. We also considered how many patients are they currently working with and how far out their schedules were. So like, for example, some clinics said, you know, we could start, generally speaking, working with you in 3 months. Some people were like, we have a year. So that was another thing that we considered. How were they as far as like being military friendly, offering military discounts? I'm a veteran. My husband is still currently active duty, but he retires soon. Woohoo. So that was something else that we considered. The cost, what their packages were, if they offered packages, if they had any kind of guaranteed packages for bringing home a baby versus if you have a bunch of failed transfers. There was a lot of things that we considered. And maybe I'll make a video about that, about what you could, you know, look into, research, and consider before picking your clinic. But we did that. We found the right clinic for us. Then we scheduled to have an initial consult over Zoom with the fertility doctor at the clinic that we decided on. During the initial consult with the IVF doctor, some of the things that we talked about were our current health and what was our struggle with getting pregnant, or at least to the best of our knowledge, what was our infertility hurdle that we were struggling to get over. Some people kind of go into this already knowing what, you know, their hurdle is, and other people don't. And we were at a place where we were just like, we have no solid idea what is wrong. I was able to get pregnant before, but I've always had early miscarriages, and basically like the 6-week range. We knew that it was possible for me to get pregnant, but we didn't know why I couldn't stay pregnant. So that was kind of the issue that I shared with the fertility doctor. As for my husband, we knew that he could have a baby because he had one, you know, 11 years prior in a previous relationship. So we knew that that was possible for him, but we didn't know, you know, between him and I, what was going on. So we discussed what we thought could be going on with the fertility doctor. We discussed our overall health, if we had any health problems, any conditions, you know, like thyroid or hormone issues that we were aware of, PCOS, endometriosis, anything that we could have shared with him to kind of help him investigate what could possibly be going on. We didn't really have much to offer him. So the next step after just talking over the phone was that we were going to come in and we were going to do our baseline ultrasound and blood work. So we scheduled the baseline ultrasound and we came in for that and for the blood work. The blood work included doing the ovarian assessment reserve assessment. So the OAR, the ovarian assessment reserve, I can't speak, and a follicular ultrasound. Oh, and then we also tested for my TSH levels. So my ovarian assessment reserve was labeled as good. I'm gonna try not to sneeze. I'm gonna sneeze. No. My ovarian assessment reserve came back as good, and I remember the ranges being like, I was at the good. My TSH level was a little bit too high, higher than they wanted it to be, so I had to start taking levothyroxine and the baseline ultrasound. That was an emotional experience for me. So I did a vaginal ultrasound. The doctor went in and he looked at my uterus, and my uterus, from what he could see, looked okay. He looked at my ovaries, and from what he could see from the ultrasound, the ovaries looked okay. But then when he went to look at my fallopian tubes, so the left one, he said, was really difficult to see. So he couldn't really get a good look at it. But then when he went to go look at my right fallopian tube, it was really big on the screen. And I remember looking at it and going, wow, that's really big. Like, how are you able to see that one so much better? And why is it so much bigger? That one must be the good one. Yeah, so that one was not good. I had a hydrosalpinx that we could see in the right. We couldn't really see the left. But he's like, yes, you definitely have an infection of some kind or something going on in your right fallopian tube, and you're likely going to have to get that removed. And he also mentioned that that was probably what was causing me to have all the early miscarriages that I had been having, was because of what was going on in that right fallopian tube, kind of trickling down into the uterus and affecting the embryo being able to grow. So that meant that the next step for me was going to be to have a laparoscopic look at both the fallopian tubes, and then also my uterus and my ovaries. So we went home after the baseline ultrasound, and as soon as we got home, I reached out to the local military hospital that did have an OBGYN and fertility, not really a fertility clinic because they don't really offer fertility services, but they can do surgeries that affect the reproductive system. So I reached out to them to see if maybe they would get me in so that I could get the surgery to look at the fallopian tubes. And luckily they were able to get me in, and they wanted to get me in. So I went into the military hospital and I was scheduled for the laparoscopic look at everything. And they said that when they were in there, if they saw anything that needed to be removed or anything that they wanted to take like samples for studies, any kind of specimen, that they would do that while they were in there. So to be prepared to have the right fallopian tube removed. The procedure itself was pretty seamless, other than having the pains that you get from like them putting gas inside to kind of expand the space. Other than that, it was pretty painless, and the recovery was, there wasn't really much of a recovery. It was pretty simple. But anyway, so that procedure went really well, with the exception of I woke up and the surgeon was there, and he was really, really nice. And he said, so we did remove your right fallopian tube. It needed to go. It was not healthy. And we also had to take out the left fallopian tube. And I just remember immediately having like this gut-wrenching feeling. I think I not screamed, but I made a noise. And I was like, then I won't be able to get pregnant. And I just remember saying that and kind of going silent. And everybody was silent in the room because I was like, I know you need your fallopian tubes in order to conceive naturally. And I just remember that moment. And my husband was there and he was holding my hand. And yeah, we were already preparing to need to do IVF. But there's just something different about when you know for sure you will never be able to conceive the traditional way. There's just something about knowing that you'll never be able to do that with certainty that just hits you like a ton of bricks. So he told me that they removed those 2 fallopian tubes, and that when they were in there, they did take samples because they found some tissue that looked like endometriosis and some other stuff that kind of looked like it could be precancerous. So they went ahead and they took those samples, and I left the hospital and I healed up, and that was pretty much the end of the salpingectomy, which is what that procedure is called, a salpingectomy, which we later found out was endometriosis. I had moderate endometriosis going on, and as well as I did have precancerous tissue invading the spaces. So all of that was removed during that surgery, thank God. And after I healed up, we were able to move forward with the next step in the IVF process. So I wanted to add that during the time of waiting for me to heal, which the healing process didn't take very long. I think it took me like 3 weeks to a month to heal. And my doctor, the fertility clinic doctor, was okay with me going ahead and proceeding with moving forward with IVF. But the thing was that the office had a closure. The fertility clinic had an office closure. So it was extended a little bit. So during that time, my husband had a semen analysis done at that military hospital. That came back that he had semen, but it needed help finding where to go. Like, he had healthy looking semen, but the way it swim, I don't know. But he had a semen analysis done, and maybe I'll make a video about that, or maybe I'll let him make a video about that, explaining that, the results of that. But we found out, though, he did have a lot less than you would want to see. So I don't remember the numbers. It was like, let's just say on a scale from 1 to 5, you wanted to have a 5 in order to get your significant other pregnant. He had like a 0.5. Does that make sense? So he had a lot less than you should have. And then the semen that he did have, the sperm that he had, was healthy, but it was minimal, and it was kind of like some of them had trouble swimming or something like that. So I'll let him get into that maybe in his own video. But also during that time, we had some online video courses that we had to take. So the topics that we had to do were natural menstrual cycle, going over all the IVF medications and learning about those. We had to learn about OHSS and what the symptoms of that looked like. We went over the risk of fertility drugs, egg retrieval process, the fertilization processes. So there's conventional, which is where you would put the egg and the sperm in the petri dish and let things happen naturally, or the ICSI process if that is needed. Cryopreservation, pregnancy risks associated with IVF pregnancy specifically, and the risk of having multiples. That's my favorite chapter. Which, by the way, spoiler alert, the video is basically just them encouraging single embryo transfers to, reduce any risk that 2 embryos or more, or however many are implanted, would work. So basically, that video is just about encouraging single embryo transfers, which we did both times. Single embryo transfers. And we got identical twins both times. So I'm in my twin mom era. Okay. So after the videos, after we waited and I got healed up, the next part of our journey included my husband getting a NSA procedure done, which is non-surgical aspiration, which is where they put him under with anesthesia, and they basically take a long needle and they go in and extract some sperm, and then they freeze it so that whenever they're able to retrieve my eggs, they have his sperm ready to go. So my husband did that. And his healing process was really simple for that either. I think he felt back to normal in a day or two. And he wasn't in any significant pain from that. So after the non-surgical aspiration that my husband had, and once the office opened back up, the next thing was for me to go in to have another ultrasound to look and see how things had healed. After having the double salpingectomy surgery that I had had, and to go ahead and just recheck all the things that we can with blood work. So they tested for my estrogen, progesterone, and my luteinizing hormone. And all those came back in a great range. Everything looked good on the ultrasound. So they gave me the thumbs up to go ahead and start taking birth control. And then that's when my IVF schedule started. And the first part of that was suppression check, which is why you're taking the birth control to begin with. They're basically trying to suppress your natural cycle, to take control of it, to be able to grow your eggs at the speed, at the size that they want to. So after the suppression check and the blood work and the ultrasounds for that, a couple days later I came in And we did blood work again and ultrasound again, and I started my STIMS medications. So my STIMS medications included Menopur and Follistim. So I started my STIMS medication, and like I said, I was coming in every 2 days for a blood draw and ultrasounds as needed. And that is basically the STIM cycle. You're just getting your injections, whatever your injection protocol is, and that'll be different depending on if you're doing a fresh embryo transfer or a frozen embryo transfer. So for this cycle, because I was doing the egg retrieval as well, I needed the Menopur and the Follistim. So that's why those medications were important, because we were doing the egg retrieval. So I was stimming from, let's see, I started the stims on November 7th, and you're building up to do your trigger shot, which is an HCG injection. And that was on November 15th is when I ended up doing the trigger shot. Because for that ultrasound, when I came in to check, they said that my follicles were big, they were mature, they looked perfect, and I didn't want to wait another day, so they had me trigger that night. Then the next day I came in for an HCG blood draw. I never quite fully understood like the purpose of the HCG trigger shot, but if you Google it, it basically says that it is administered before the egg retrieval to trigger the ovaries to release the egg or eggs and help facilitate meiosis, a reproductive division that reduces the number of chromosomes in the eggs from 46 to 23, preparing them for fertilization. So there you go. That is apparently what the trigger shot does. So I did the trigger shot, and we did the retrieval 2 days after the trigger shot. So I took the trigger shot on the 15th, and they checked my blood on the 16th, and then on November 17th was the day that we did the egg retrieval. So it was pretty straightforward. They get you prepped, and you put on your gown and your feet cover and your head cover, and you go back there, and then you'll get anesthesia to put you to sleep. The doctor goes in and does his thing, which is basically kind of the same thing that my husband had for the NSA, which is where they take a long needle through the vagina, through your uterus, and then they go into your ovary, and they kind of suck out as many of the eggs as they can. I mean, that was pretty straightforward. I didn't really have much pain with that either. You know, I just woke up, and I think I cared so much about how many eggs did you retrieve, how did the process go, did you get anything, did they look good, did they look healthy. I think I cared more about that than anything. And also, sorry, heartburn, also the girl next to me was just like non-stop just talking to her mom like, oh my god, I can't believe that they retrieved 30 eggs, da 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 da. And I was just like, shh, I just want to know how many eggs I got, and I hope I'm not that loud. But anyways, the process was pretty seamless. I mean, I don't know, it's different for everybody. I was asleep, I woke up, and all I cared about was how many eggs I got. I said after the egg retrieval, I felt nauseous, and I had mild pain and discomfort, and I took the hydrocodone that they had given me, and then I felt better 2 days later. So there you go. There's the facts. So after the retrieval, basically you're in this waiting period where the embryologist will call you and give you daily updates on how your eggs are maturing, growing, and if they mixed well with the sperm, and if there are embryos that are growing. So for me, it was 18 eggs retrieved, 17 were mature or old enough, and 15 started to fertilize and grow and mix with my husband's sperm. And that process happened for 5 days, and I got a phone call, you know, every day, kind of letting us know, you know, one of them stopped growing, or this one slowed down, but we're still watching it, updates like that. And then at the end of the 5 days, you kind of know at that point how many viable embryos you have that you can freeze or transfer. So on November 22nd is when we did our day 5 embryo transfer.
Okay, we are ready.
Perfect.
Yep. Little spot right there. Okay, now you guys will want to watch the monitor.
I'd like to have everybody's attention to the big television monitor on the wall. You see our dish back view. Here's our embryo. Just a moment, you'll see the catheter.
focus on the very tip of the new white line as it comes into view. Just a little bit farther. Right there, like that.
Ready? Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
Perfect. I don't know if you guys were able to see just some movement out of the tip of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the fluid media leaving the catheter.
So as soon as Dr. Beasley removes the catheter, I'm going to rinse it out to ensure that you have your embryo and we're done.
We did a fresh transfer, and we had all the other embryos frozen. And we did a single embryo transfer of one potential baby transfer fresh. So this baby was never frozen, and that means, you know, we never had time to do any PGTA testing, genetic testing. We didn't do any of that because it's basically that the embryo is ready to go. We're putting it in right away. So that's what we did, and we did that on November 22nd, which I find crazy looking back on it, because we transferred our one single embryo on 1/1/22 and ended up having identical girls on 1/1/22 is when they were transferred. I don't even know how to explain it, guys. It was one embryo. I got 2 beautiful baby girls. So so that was on November 22nd, and we took the pregnancy test on December 2nd. So that is pretty much the IVF process that we went through from start to finish. That does not include what happens after the pregnancy test and what it's like going through pregnancy after infertility. It is difficult. There are so many emotions that you're gonna experience and go through and work through when you do, hopefully, God willing, get pregnant after struggling with infertility. It's a lot to process, especially, you know, again, God willing, you're able to get past certain milestones that you weren't able to get past before. So like for me, getting past the 6 weeks of pregnancy, it seemed like something I'd never be able to do. And I remember when we got to week 8, and I was just like, this is crazy. Like it just felt like I was not me. Like I was another person experiencing somebody else's pregnancy, like, because it could never happen to me. So there's a lot that goes on after the IVF process as well. The whole thing is this crazy emotional journey. And there's lots of starts and stopping and moving forward and taking steps back. There's so much to it, and it's so different for everybody. But I really hope that this video has helped kind of clear up the process of, you know, what you can kind of expect. All right, that is it for now. I got through, and I don't think I had very much coffee. So I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of us. Look at us. We did it. We got through it. So that is it for now, and I'll see you guys in the next video.